Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and we have a great show planned for you today, where everything today will be, of course, about computer and technology news. Where, no guests today, just want to get ahead of that. But we have plenty of stories, lots that you should definitely check out, and plenty to, of course, talk about. So a couple things before we get started, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything from any videos, articles, just anything that we show here on today's program will be in one place. So if you're busy, then, hey, you know where to go. Also, we're at computeramerica.com. Check out the social media content brought to you by Logitech. And also be sure to check out the live video feed, which you can find at twitch.tv/computeramerica or right there at our homepage. So, all that being said, why don't we waste no time? I hope all of you had, well, actually, let's waste a little bit of time, I guess. I hope all of you had a great weekend and you did something fun. You're ready to take on this week and you're ready for some Computer America. So thank you for joining us once again. Let's go ahead and get started. Computer and technology news. Here we go. So for today, I think our first article that we're going to do is, let's see, we have them all lined up right here, ready to go. Why don't we go ahead and talk about this one? So this happened this weekend. It's, this reminds me a lot of the articles that we read about, let's say, Volkswagen, for instance, where they were caught cheating on their emission standards for their diesel engines. And, when it first came out, the CEO, the president, the board directors, they were all aghast and appalled that something like this could happen at their facility, with their cars and things like that. And lo and behold, much later, billions of dollars in fines and just a lot of actually figuring out what happened. Well, turns out that, these orders were not some rogue scientist in the laboratory that you can blame it on. No, rather, this was policy. This was something that not only was something that Volkswagen was doing, but it was also something that many other competitors were doing. Many, including, car manufacturers from other countries, and just realizing that it was much cheaper to fake or figure out a way to beat the emission test than it was to actually develop the technology that would go into all these vehicles. And in the end, they were found out and, they were punished. I don't know exactly if that's going to happen with this story, but I bring that one to compare to this one because this story is about Amazon hired employees to tweet nice things about it, and it shows how big its reputation problems are. And I bring up Volkswagen not because I think that, they're going to get fined and all that kind of stuff. I mean, reviews and people saying nice things about you, it's all very smoke and mirrors kind of deal, but it does show, I feel, that it's not just Amazon. If Amazon is doing this, then you can bet your, is Bippy still a thing? You can bet your Bippy that a lot of other companies are doing the exact same thing. Amazon was the first to get caught doing this and to actually, I think we have it here that they highly encouraged their employees to do these things on social media. But any Fortune 10 tech company or really any of the larger companies, I can almost guarantee that they are doing the exact same thing. So we're going to focus on Amazon. Just keep in mind that these practices are seldom the idea of just a singular company. So here we go. The article, let's get started, saying that Amazon, oh, by the way, this coming from sfgate.com, came out this weekend, saying that the company now has a small army of FC ambassadors, saying nice things about the company online and engaging in dialogue with average Twitter users. The ambassadors are full-time employees, according to an Amazon spokesperson, and it is their job to share their experiences working at a fulfillment center. So if you have not been paying attention to some of the dialogue that has been coming out from Amazon's fulfillment center, there have been allegations of extremely poor working conditions for those who work in the warehouses. They may be paid a certain amount, which I think certainly beats the minimum wage, but the amount of hours, the amount of strictness, restriction of bathroom breaks and things like that, there have been a lot of negative things said about fulfillment centers. Well, looks like Amazon has paid ambassadors, quote unquote, to clear that up and tell about how good it is. Let's see if that works. So, a quick search on Twitter reveals about 13 such employees, and they seem to be uniform in both their online presence and talking points. So that's also a dead giveaway that they were given their personal experiences, and 13 people all share the exact same talking points. It really shows that this is manipulation rather than any kind of dissemination of information, or at least accurate information. So they routinely engage their tweets from low-profile users discussing a few subjects that portray Amazon in a negative light, which include pay for warehouse jobs, employee bathroom breaks, and the temperature of the warehouses, which we've also heard, can be over 90 to 100 degrees, which, while not comfortable by any means, when you're doing very labor-intensive warehouse work, that could be dangerous. No other way to put it. It could be very dangerous. So, the ambassadors also seem to back each other up when they face criticism or pushback from users who call them bots. And in a statement to Business Insider, Amazon said that the FC ambassadors are all Amazon employees who have worked in warehouses, saying that, quote, the most important thing is that they've been here long enough to honestly share their facts based on personal experiences. And they said that it's important that we do a good job of educating people about the actual environment inside our fulfillment centers, and the FC ambassador, which I now realize means fulfillment center ambassador, program is a big part of that, along with the fulfillment center tours that we provide. So, yeah, it's it seems to be getting a bit sticky. And as I said before, really want to reiterate that Amazon paying people to speak nicely about their operations on social media to the average person isn't something that is unique to Amazon. Rather, Amazon is probably one of hundreds of companies that pay people or their employees, or highly incentivize people that they pay to go on and to, hey, speak nicely about the company. So let's go ahead and skip a little bit down into the story. They said that while Jeff Bezos' wealth has increased 260 million every single day this year, that's a weird factoid, but I strangely am so enthralled. While Jeff Bezos' wealth has increased $260 million every single day this year, he continues to pay many Amazon employees wages so low that they're forced to depend on taxpayer-funded programs such as food stamps, Medicaid, and public housing to survive. Yeah, I'm not going to get into the economics debate, but yeah. So many on Twitter said that they would boycott shopping on Amazon Prime Day in July due to reports about poor working conditions inside Amazon warehouses and a concurrent strike from workers in Spain. Amazon has defended its working conditions, and Amazon has also been criticized, fairly or not, for seeking tax breaks. Although we have talked about that, and hey, it's only good business if you're going to go hunt down a tax break. So again, the main thrust of the story, Amazon has 13 people on payroll who they say have been fulfillment center employees at Amazon and who are paid to strictly go on social media, find people talking bad about Amazon, and then I guess argue with them and say that no, Amazon isn't that bad. That's their job day in and day out, is to defend Amazon on social media. This is the way that that marketing is going to go, and really, this is a form of marketing. It's very underground and very it's not advertised. It's not saying, "Hey, Amazon is paying for this ad," but it very much is exactly Amazon paying people and eventually, and actually paying for advertising that puts Amazon in a better light. This is something that a lot of companies are going to do or have already done. You see it all the time. It's called shilling, and it happens more often than you think. And I think it's going to be it's probably going to be cracked down more and more. We already have stricter laws on when to label something in advertisement, and those will probably be widened to include behavior such as this, especially when it's employees who are, strictly paid to speak up a company. So, yeah, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and switch over from this article, which happened just a couple days ago, to some of these other ones. And I think this next one is the one, honestly, I've been waiting for. I have not had a chance to check out Netflix's stock price. I'm sure that it's probably not having it's not down. It's doing pretty good. It's not down. Let's just say that. But this is kind of what I've been looking for, and it's Disney's long-awaited competitor to Netflix. Yeah. And now we have Disney Play, if you want to add that to your vocabulary very quickly. We have Hulu, we have Amazon Video, we have Netflix, of course, we have HBO Go, we have any number of streaming services from Showtime and, these other services. Well, Disney Play is the newest, latest, and will probably, by the end of 2019, will be the greatest of the streaming services on the market. Simply because Disney, if you have not been paying attention, owns about 40% of all box office sales in the United States. So $4 out of every $10 made or earned on movies, big theatrical releases, 4 out of every 10 of those dollars goes directly back to Disney. And that's just one company. That's one company. It's incredible. So when they open up a streaming service, they're going to be massive. So they said that it's been about a full year since Disney first made public its intentions to go head to head. There we go, with Netflix. And they said that in the intervening months, the media giant has started the process of pulling content from streaming services. 1 second. There we go. So they said that in the intervening months, the media giant has started the process of pulling content from streaming services bit by bit, which really took a lot of people by surprise. That's why a lot of the Netflix for a while there was the exclusive first premiere on streaming services for a lot of Disney movies. And then they said that they were going to break that contract, and Netflix took a big hit, and now we know why. And while Disney isn't planning to launch the product anytime until sometime next year, at least we finally got a name, where Bob Iger is calling the video service Disney Play, and that coming from a report from Variety. So, yeah, let's see. So, they said that from the sound of things, however, it's going all in on its plan to beat Netflix and its ilk at their own game. Along with an extremely strong slate of existing films, the company just got some big titles just over the horizon. So there's Captain Marvel, the final installment of the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and surefire sequels like Frozen 2 and Toy Story 4. And then there's the original content led by a live-action Star Wars series helmed by the Iron Man director. And all those and more, all those IPs are going to be on one single streaming service. If you have a kid, then Disney's a shoo-in for kids. If you like superhero movies, DC Universe, you're trying your best. Keep going for it. But Disney and Marvel have everything on the whole superhero genre, comic book genre. If you like really just any, the Star Wars is big in its own right. All that and more. If you like any of that, then you're going to be very tempted to check out Disney as opposed to Netflix. I'm not saying that the thing that I think Netflix, well, actually, I take that back. Disney purchased Fox, or at least the Fox Entertainment subsidiaries. So I was about to say Disney's weakness is in their television shows, which, they have the Disney Channel, which targets a younger audience. But now that they own Fox and everything, FX related, things like that, I can't see how anyone can even compete with Disney. So again, looking forward to it. And Disney Play, that is the name. Don't forget it. Coming out sometime next month. Ripping off Google Play? I think that they chose Disney Play simply because Disney, even though they are a very litigious corporate entity, they, there's definitely suits at the top who keep their stranglehold on the media empire that is Disney. I think Disney still has a lot wrapped up in Mickey Mouse and Disneyland and Disney World and being a toy line and, just being a fun company. So obviously there is Google Play. There's no denying that came first. But Disney Play, I think they're trying to, kind of work in the fact that, hey, we're still fun and caring, even though we pull the strings for, everything. So, yep, I don't see that changing. Disney Play, pretty good name. There you have it. Okay. So let's switch up and talk about, let's see. So we have a couple here and some that are, okay. So I'm from Florida, for 20 some odd years, lived in Florida. And over the time there, we had a couple ongoing environmental disasters. One of them being an invasion of the Burmese python in the Florida Everglades. They have very few natural predators. They eat the wildlife and bird and otherwise these pets. People purchase these pythons as pets, would release them, or so they thought, humanely into the Everglades to live. Turns out they breed like crazy and they eat everything in sight. So there's that one. Invasive species are a huge problem. The other one is off the coast of Florida, where they have a lot of reefs. There are lots and lots of ecosystems that are fragile just because of the whole climate change and what have you, drilling, what have you. But there's another invasive species called the lionfish. If you've never seen these things, they're called lionfish because they have a lot of spines and they kind of look like they have big old manes, but they're spiny, they're mean, they are very prone to to reproducing, and the worst of all, I think, is that they're venomous. They kill anything that eats it, and they will actually attack other fish. So they have seasons where they actually pay people who can spearfish, and they actually have like competitions to see how many lionfish that you can catch, how much can you keep their population in check. But people can only do it for so long. I guess that's where killer robots come in. And now we have this article from Engadget saying that spear-toting robot can guard coral reefs against invasive lionfish. And I know what you're thinking, but Ben, arming robots with the very fundamental spear, isn't that a danger to humans? Probably. But hey, at least we're not giving them guns just yet. Right now, just spears. So this coming to us from John Vengus, and saying that lionfish are threats to not only fragile coral reef systems, but the divers who keep them in check. They not only take advantage of unsuspecting fish populations, but carry poisonous barbs that make them challenging to catch. Where student researcher at Worcester Polytechnic Institute may have a solution, which is a robotic guardians. And they've crafted an autonomous robot, which you can see if you're watching the video portion. You can see, the image that they included here. Doesn't look too threatening. I think we're okay. So they said that they crafted an autonomous robot that can hunt lionfish without requiring a tethered operator that could harm the reefs. So the bot attaches to an existing submersible robot and relies on computer vision, which is trained on thousands of photos, although, we've talked about computer vision in the past week, and I hope that they really train this thing really, really well to spot examples of the invasive species and jab them with one of its 8 spears. Each spear tip is detachable and buoyant, so any successful kill sends the fish to the surface, and the machine is well suited to the realities of the ocean, where it is both resistant to saltwater corrosion and uses an airtight chamber to maintain buoyancy after every spear use. So let's see. They said that the automation isn't ready for service yet. A follow-up group of students will work on a navigation system that can help the robot create a 3D search grid. If that's successful, though, the robot could become a valuable part of the reef defense. And yeah. It's again, living in Florida, coming from Florida, having a lot of friends who spearfish. I never got into the sport. I'm horrible with diving, but it's an ever-growing problem, and I think throwing robots at it is a very topical kind of way to deal with it. I don't think it's going to be the best way. I really hope that they aren't going to start, hitting other kinds of fish that are not meant to be just, killed on sight. But, hey, it's like a robot. It's like an ocean Roomba with spears. I like it. I like the idea. I definitely liked it. So let's see. Let's go ahead and hopefully no one's wearing their lionfish costume to the beach. So let's see. So there's that story. Again, love it when robotics tries to tackle real world problems. I know it's very difficult, but if something can do it right, it can save a lot of man hours and hopefully save a lot of indigenous fish. So there's that one. Let's go ahead and switch on over to, how about the rumor mill? We haven't talked much about switching gears even faster. Really, this one kind of sort of matches up with the story that we just did. So the two are so parallel, I don't want to miss this. This one from The Verge, and it's a bit of a longer article, so we'll just kind of skip through it. And this is actually an interview that was done with the United. Let's see. This was an interview with Mandeep Gill, and his official job, though he won't admit it himself, he said that he's the chairman of the United Nations Convention on Conventional Weapons, meetings on lethal autonomous weapons, and he has the task of shepherding 125 member states through discussions on the thorny technical and ethical issue of killer robots. And if you're watching the video portion, they have a very easy kind of figure to show you just what a killer robot would look like. Imagine tank treads, a base, and essentially just a rotating mounted rifle. It's really not much more complicated than that. It's a gun on wheels with nothing to even combat it. Is this right? Is this proper? That's Mandeep. That is Mandeep Gill's job. Saying that it's subject that has attracted a glaring media spotlight and the pressure from the NGOs like Campaign to Stop Killer Robots, which is backed by Tesla's Elon Musk and Alphabet's Mustafa Suleyman, to ban such machines outright. So you can ban these things, and recently we had a lot of conversations about the idea of a 3D printed gun, and you can try to ban those, even though it is very much impossible. The technology to create it is out there. So the technical details of creating something, once the technology, or the ability to create something once the technology is there, that is trying to get that genie back in the bottle. So we're going to see the same thing here. Should killer robots be banned altogether? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's see, robots controlling drones. We're a step closer to Terminator. And, Terminator is always the go-to. Terminator is always the go-to movie about killer robots. But I feel like even like movies like iRobot, Terminator, anything like that, they still had robots that had some form of consciousness that showed that robots are going to kill humans because that's what the robots want. That's what the Prime Directive or whatever sci-fi thing that they cooked up. Robots want to kill humans. That is what made the movie great, is because there wasn't, it was man against machine. It was a very primal kind of thing. But in the near future, and especially in the next 20, 30 years, killer robots are actually going to be kind of like a Roomba, kind of like a toaster. It's just what they're programmed for. They're programmed to see people who are most likely in a specified area. Maybe they'll be able to identify if they have a firearm or if they are armed or not. And if they take an aggressive stance, they're going to be able to, shoot them on sight. It's war without putting anything of yourself out there, which sounds great for the person who's able to develop these weapons. But when you're able to leave it up to the hands of someone who is extremely detached from the situation, who is extremely maybe continents away, who has, who is looking at a computer monitor, there is no, or at least there's less of a connection with what you're doing. So obviously it's a very complex issue, and hey, that's why we have this article here. So they said that Gill has to corral national delegations, diplomats, lawyers, and military personnel, as well as academics, AI entrepreneurs, industry associations, humanitarian organizations, and NGOs in order for member states to try to reach a consensus on this critical security issue. So obviously he has a lot of parties to work with, and there's going to be a lot of different viewpoints. Obviously, an NGO is not going to have the same point of view as a military personnel on the ramifications of a killer robot. So they said that the subject can spark heated emotion. The Future of Life Institute, a nonprofit that works to mitigate existential risks facing humanity, which is a great thing that nonprofit is doing, mitigating existential risk facing humanity, such as artificial intelligence, launched its sensationalistic short film Slaughterbots, which I think they include in the article here. Essentially, I think that one was, and I've seen parts of it, that's the one where they take like a Black Mirror-esque kind of future and take things to the nth degree to their admittedly somewhat logical conclusion, but it's a dystopian near future menaced by homicidal drones. So, folks, music means that we're going to take a break. We'll be right back and we'll finish up this article and move on to others. Everyone, Computer America, Computer and Technology News, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. We are 32 minutes past the hour, and if you missed any part of today's program, you can of course check us out on wherever podcasts are heard. The podcast of Computer America is simply today's show in its entirety, rebroadcast wherever podcasts are heard. And I think in the coming weeks and months, we're going to try to focus on actually adding additional content to some of our conversations here. So the podcast, we've traditionally kept it very constrained to the hour-long radio show that we have featured on IRN. There we go. Hard to say that today. But I think obviously the podcast itself does not have any of those constraints. So it's been an hour, and I think going forward, we may actually, if we have a guest who's staying long, or if we feel like we want to talk about something or add more content, then there is no reason why we shouldn't be able to continue on and add that to the podcast. So for now, it's just a rebroadcast of today's show, but maybe in the future, and we will certainly let you know if we do something that you should check out on the podcast. But yeah, wherever podcasts are heard, and we're still, we are still waiting on the Spotify announcement. But yeah, Computer America has been submitted to Spotify, so coming soon. All right, so let's continue on talking about killer robots. The idea that the United Nations is going to have to lead a talk among 125 different countries, along with a number of different organizations who all have a very vested interest in either denying or approving uh, automated machines that are capable of taking over military operations. So we already have things such as drones. We have things, that to a certain extent they're controlled by a person. Maybe even states or miles or even countries away. But artificial intelligence, as we know it, has not really been utilized, as far as we know, in a military capacity. To the point of which we've let a robot make the final decision whether or not to pull the trigger. As far as I know, that decision has always been up to some kind of oversight. While technology may alert to a threat, the threat itself and how best to deal with it or react to it has always been left up to an individual. Whether or not that's the best course of action or, just kind of what should happen, that's what we're going to be talking about here in the future. And yeah, so there's an interview here. We included a link to it in the show notes if you want to read the interview in its entirety. But they said that an engineer, let's see, they're still talking about Mr. Gill, who is of course the one leading the leading the chairman and the interview itself. But let's go ahead and say. Let's go ahead and finish about the agenda. So the 4 agenda items are: first, the characterization of the issue. And here are the questions that they're going to be asking everyone and for their input. How do you define lethal autonomous weapon systems? Second, what should be the nature of the human element in the use of force through such systems? So I assume that the first one, as in how do you define lethal autonomous weapon systems? Because if you say anything with the ability to kill a person that has some kind of autonomous function, suddenly you're turning every autonomous car into a banned, into a banned vehicle. That's not what they're aiming for. They really need to narrow it down, something that is clearly an instrument of war, something that is solely designed to take people's lives. And they have to define in very clear terms what is and what is not against the rules. Second, what should the nature of human element be through in the use of force through these systems? So is there a human who will be checking and balancing? Is the human there simply there to facilitate the making sure that the robot is operational and that all of its systems are running efficiently? Or does the human actually have final say over any kind of force? Third, what should the human-machine interface when such a system? What should be the human-machine interface when such machines are deployed or developed? So how are we going to control these things? Is there going to be a smartphone app? Do we have to go to the Google Play Store to download our autonomous killer robot app? Or are we going to use VR, AR, or direct line of sight through a monitor, through cameras? How are humans actually going to monitor and monitor them as they're deployed? The third item: what are the various options for dealing with the international humanitarian law and the international security related concerns coming from the potential deployment of such systems? So let's see, what are the various options for dealing with the international? So yeah, I mean, if these are put into place, how do we react and say, hey, that should not be deployed, that should not be in this area? Think of the humanitarian side of it, and how do we, how do we stop these things in case something bad happens? So the last point that he makes is the fourth point is about technology review. In the field, more than any other today, technology is evolving very rapidly. So we've seen. So you want your policy response to be tech neutral. They should not have to be fundamentally revised when technology changes. At the same time, you want to make sure that the implementation stays in step with technical developments. And in the August meeting, it is his hope that they can come to an end of the meeting with a good report that captures some building blocks in these 4 areas. So seems very measured. Seems like he knows exactly what he's trying to do with these meetings. Unfortunately, it kind of sounds Isaac Asimov-esque as we're going forward to say, hey, as we move forward and we say we need essentially those robotic laws that say, you cannot harm humans, and anything should be done to save a human. If you save a human, or if you harm one, you can only harm one in order to save another. Things like that. Those are great in science fiction, don't really work in the real world, and certainly not when private enterprise is the one designing these robots. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to see what they actually come up with, because these systems, if they're not already in use, then they are already augmenting the human force that we have in terms of military, and especially hey, just coming from Computer America, and America in particular, I have no doubt that AI is being used extensively. Just, it's going to be a scary day when a computer runs its analysis, runs its risk assessment, and decides that that human should no longer be alive. And that's what we're trying to head off. So definitely going to keep an eye on that. Okay, I won't lie, that one got a little heavy. Let's do something a little bit lighter, a little bit more, let's see, what's on the fun side? The fun. Let's talk about, so close. Let's talk about the iPhone rumor mill, as we said before. So the iPhone, if you recall, they are now coming out with reportedly 3 different iPhones. So gone are the days of simply the iPhone and the iPhone Plus, whether it be the 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever you want to call it. Looks like they are keeping the 3 iPhone iteration yet again, and this coming from Ars Technica, talking about all 3 iPhones coming this fall will reportedly have edge-to-edge displays. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll find out. But it seems we have a new precedent in what constitutes a fancy, good, high-quality phone. So, as September approaches, so too does the release of the iPhones from Apple. A report from Bloomberg provides a few details about the new smartphones that we can expect from the tech giant this fall, along with the insights into Apple's overall strategy. And the main rumors still stand. Apple is expected to debut 3 phones in September, with the goal of diversifying its product line with various sizes and prices to attract new customers. Now, in the past, let's see, the latest iteration, we of course had the iPhone 8, the 8 Plus, and the iPhone 10, or many people call it the iPhone X. The iPhone 10 was supposed to be the 10th anniversary edition, where it's a bit more futuristic, it's a bit more techy. Obviously, the costs were, it was one of the first phones over $1,000, or one of the first smartphones that started at $1,000. But of course, with Samsung going ahead and saying, whatever, we came out with a $1,200 phone. That taboo has been shattered, broken, and no one really cares about it anymore. So, I think that there's going to be like an iPhone 9 and 9 Plus, but iPhone might try to go the other direction. If you recall, there was the iPhone 5C. The iPhone 5C was a little bit more affordable, a little bit less flashy, slower processor, slower RAM, things like that. But it did capture a certain segment of the market that Android was really leveraging. So I would not be surprised if Apple were to, kind of go that route. Instead of going insanely high, bump up their baseline iPhone 9 and 9 Plus, make them more expensive and add a few more bells and whistles. And then, actually, go a little bit lower end on the specs. That's what I would like to see. I don't think that's what the third phone is. So let's go ahead and get into this article. It said that the report suggests that Apple will reveal a new high-end iPhone with a display close to 6.5 inches, which would make it the largest iPhone ever. That's huge. It would also be the second iPhone to have an OLED display, a premium feature that to be carried over from last year's iPhone 10. This handset will be a glass back, stainless steel edges, and the ability to show two apps side by side in a split screen, as if that feature was needed. I guess someone needs it. I don't know. So, Apple will update the current iPhone 10 with a faster processor and an upgraded camera. Otherwise, last year's flagship $1,000 smartphone will remain unchanged. So it looks like the iPhone 10 is sticking around, just a few minor upgrades. The third iPhone model will sit between the 5.8 iPhone 10 and the new 6.5-inch high-end smartphone, which will measure 6.1 inches diagonally. So they'll have a 5.8, a 6.1, and a 6.5. And this will be the most affordable model that has been rumored for quite some time, featuring a cheaper LCD screen instead of an OLED panel. It will also come in multiple colors and have aluminum edges instead of the stainless steel ones. And constructing the handset with an LCD panel and aluminum will keep costs down, allowing Apple to keep the price of this model lower than the others. So I was, a little bit justified. Of course, Apple's the Apple. They won't, they won't be like the next Chromebook, but they'll still be probably somewhere in the mid-range Android phones, which is something that Apple has been really avoiding for the past couple of years. So all models will share some features that were introduced in the iPhone 10, including edge-to-edge displays, gesture control instead of the traditional home button, and Face ID. If you were one of those that were really hoping that Face ID was not coming to a phone near you, look elsewhere other than Apple. People familiar with the matter, quote, name this year an S year, meaning that the forthcoming phones will look similar to those from the previous year with certain internal improvements. Oh, okay. So maybe like an iPhone 8S, 8S Plus, iPhone XS, or whatever they're going to call it. Essentially, these are the interim kind of little upgrades. So the article wraps up by saying that it's unclear how the three new phones will be priced, but the high-end handset will likely start at about $1,000, just like it did last year. And the new lineup represents a continuation of what Apple has been doing for years, slowly raising iPhone prices and hoping the multiple sizes and price variants will attract new customers. So, and it goes into the iPad Pro and the Apple Watch and the AirPods and blah, blah, blah. Don't feel like getting into all that. Just know that, we could be looking at a cheaper, more affordable iPhone coming this September. So in a couple of weeks, we'll know definitively just what we're looking at. There's that one. Let's go ahead and talk about something that we alluded to would happen in a roundabout way seems to have come true. Fortnite's Android vulnerability leads to Google Epic Games spat. So Google, everyone knows who Google is. Epic Games, if you don't know who they are the producers, producers of developers. That's the right word. They're the developers of Fortnite. Fortnite, if you have not heard, is currently the largest game in the world. It is explosive in growth, and it is crazy just how many people play this. Like seriously, it was something like 250,000. 250 million mobile downloads this game has. It is a phenomenon. So, Epic Games' popular shooter Fortnite has been out on Android for just a few weeks, and already there are concrete examples of some of the security fears brought about by the game's unique distribution method. Google disclosed a vulnerability in the Fortnite installer that could trick the installer into installing something other than Fortnite. So it looks like Google did some bug bounty research for Fortnite, and yeah, they let's see, someone tried to correct Fortnite because of that game. Yeah, and Fortnite is just everyone is crazy. Fortnite is just crazy popular, and yeah, they tried to correct Fortnite, which obviously would be 10 days or 2 weeks, something like that. Yeah, Fortnite is definitely more popular than the old English phrase Fortnite. But they said that the security risk, getting back to the article, the security risk, as per the article, said that the launcher, because they couldn't install the game directly from the website, they had to download an installer onto the Android phone, which would then install the Fortnite game itself. The launcher or the installer was unfortunately able to be used to distribute any kind of software. So getting the installer means that users must allow unknown sources installation through the browser, and they have to make sure that they are actually downloading Fortnite from Epic Games and not just a website claiming to be Epic Games. And again, all of this was the pain point over Fortnite did not want to pay Google 30% of the in-app purchases for the game. Because if you don't think this game is making money, this game is making buku bucks. It is incredible how much money this game is printing, and they do not feel the need to pay Google 30% for simply being the distribution method, so they went out on their own. The Fortnite installer was vulnerable to a man-in-the-disk attack. The installer, after downloading the game, could have the Android APK file swapped out with a malicious copy by a third-party app just before it was installed. The vulnerability only worked on Samsung devices, the exclusive launch OEM for Fortnite on Android, and according to Google Bug Report, on Samsung phones, the Fortnite installer used a private Galaxy Apps API, where Samsung API stores the downloaded files in Android's external storage, which is world readable, leading to the security problems. Google's bug report even mentions that using a private internal storage directory rather than the external storage would help avoid this vulnerability. So some simple recoding on how the installer is stored would clear this up, but Google is not letting Fortnite off the hook that easily. So Samsung's API only checks that the APK being installed matches the package name com.epicgames.fortnite. Package names on Android are no more secure than file names, and consequently, anyone can make an app that passes this check. A malicious app could wait for the Fortnite installer to download an update, swap out the com.epicgames.fortnite APK before the install happens, and the Fortnite installer would install the malicious app. So to make matters worse, if the fake APK has a target SDK version of 22 or lower, or essentially a fake APK has a version of the operating system, it will be granted any permission it asks for at install without the user's knowledge. So they'll be able to get just a lot more than just installing a piece of malware, but they'd be able to get everything from anything stored on the phone to photos, contacts, things like that. And because of the way that this is installed, if you're able to do it on one, you're able to do it on all of them. So I don't think that the security flaw is really that bad. Clearly now that they've let it out into the wild, they can patch it, they can fix it. But Google, by doing this themselves, by Google actually going out and saying, "Hey, here is your security flaw," it's Google trying to make a statement that you avoided the Google Play Store, and there are innate problems with that. Here's one, and they listed the security flaw, and hopefully I think in Google's mind, someone at Fortnite is going to go, well, maybe we should have just used the Google Play Store so we wouldn't have been vulnerable to this. And it's a little petty, but it's also a legitimate security threat. So, hey, more power to them. There you have it. That's, I think that's as far as we're going to take that one. But Fortnite should still be okay. And as always, install any security updates as soon as you get them because they are extremely important. So let's see. So there's that. We have time for like one more story here. This one was pretty interesting. So AR VR, we've talked about it quite a bit recently. Here's a new application I had never thought to actually use it for. So we're going to throw up the video here on the video portion if you want to check that out. But this by Motherboard, a virtual reality dog could prevent dog bites. And for anyone out there listening to the radio program, imagine a room, fairly plain, 2 walls, a corner, a dog in the corner, some VR furniture, really nothing, extreme. So, but the dog in the corner is showing certain signs that, if you don't know a lot about dogs, maybe the dog would just look kind of normal, just kind of sitting there. But if you know anything about dog kind of behavior, you can see the dog there licking its lips, showing its teeth, panting, putting its ears back. Again, this is all a cartoon dog. This is not a real dog. This is all a VR dog. And as you physically get closer with your VR app, the dog will start to display more and more distressing body language. And the app developers of this are hoping that by doing this with a virtual reality dog who cannot bite you, who cannot attack you, that you maybe learn what the signs are of a dog attack. And especially for kids, or and as the report here shows, about 6,740 patients were admitted to the hospital in 2013 for dog attacks. Maybe, just maybe, if people learn how to read a dog's behavior, they'd be able to mitigate the amount of dog attacks that actually happen. So there's some very clear signs. After seeing the video, it looked a little cheesy, it looked a little corny, but they were a very good representation of what a dog would look like if they start to get agitated, especially if they're in a corner, especially if they start to pant and put their ears back and show their teeth and lick their lips, little things like that. Hopefully, a lot of people out there listening to this already know how to not mess with dogs to the point of being bitten. But if you don't, let's see, I believe this was the actual name of this if you want to check it out, and you have a VR program. This was created by the Virtual Engineering Center, and they developed Dogs Trust. So, and this is a VR program. So there you have it. I just thought it was a pretty interesting use of VR to actually put someone in a situation that would otherwise be dangerous. It's you clearly would not want someone in the room with a dog who would be prone to biting, even for educational purposes. You don't want to distress a dog just so that you can learn this. But hey, a VR computer program, no one would dog's teeth in your ankle. Yes, dog's teeth in your ankle. That is also a very strong sign that the dog is unhappy with your presence and will soon be moving those teeth up your ankle into other places. So, folks, don't get attacked by dogs. That's my wish for you. And in the meantime, we're about flat out of time. So some of the stories that we were unable to get to because we only have a couple of seconds here. Tesla, you may have heard of them. Tesla semi-trucks are moving across the country. They look very, very cool. And while they do have a driver in the driver's seat, they are autonomously navigating this country's highways to deliver cargo from one country or from one coast to the next. We also have articles about Facebook banning Myanmar military officials who were using propaganda, and also Sprint had a security breach. So if you are a Sprint customer storing data on Sprint servers, then I'm sorry, this was a hijacked cell phone number. So potentially people have been hijacking your Sprint cell phone number. So, yeah, maybe we'll get to that. Maybe we won't. But everyone, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America. It's been a lot of fun, of course. And if you missed any part of today's show, again, check out the podcast version of today's program. If you'd like, check out computeramerica.com. We have 2 reviews up. We are working on 3 or 4 more to get them up sometime this week. And until next time, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, we do Computer America on IRN and live on twitch.tv/Computer America. Check us out. Until next time, have a great one. Bye, everyone.